Back before the abomination and ultimate disappointment that is The Rings of Power premiered, J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay went out to the world and said that they had created the story that Tolkien never wrote. And back then, as we do now, we tear into them for having the sheer audacity to dare to put themselves on the same pedestal as J.R.R. Tolkien. But actually, I've got something that might shock you a little bit to hear, that those words that they spoke were actually the ones that they should have. Hi there everyone, Lars here from Camille's Harem, not just a podcast for novice writers by novice writers, but also a YouTube channel by novice writers for novice writers, because writing is an adventure, it's more fun with friends, and today as we go into the month of Thanksgiving, at least here in the United States, I want to talk about hubris and humility. So I know I already shocked a lot of people when I said that what J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay had told the world, and they told all the Tolkien fans that they had written the novel that Tolkien never wrote, well, that is in a way what they should have been saying. Now then, let me explain this right here. When you decide to create a story, whether it be an original or a retelling, a reimagining, what have you, you need to go on out there with the biggest claim that you possibly can. You have to capture people's attention and their emotions. Why? Because there are so many other tens of thousands of new stories that are released worldwide every single year, and that is the stuff that is professionally made. Never mind all of the fan fictions, great videos, little shows, and all different kinds of things that people create on a day-to-day basis. And out there in the world, despite there being billions of people, people only have so much time in their lives to dedicate to entertainment and to good storytelling. So if you wish to capture their attention, you have to go out there and say something big. You have to do something big in order to reel them in. What J.D. Payne, Patrick McKay, and everyone working for them messed up big was that they did not have the talent to back up that hubris. And now that it's not just me saying this either. I've told this story before, but I think it bears repeating again. I went to Fan Fusion, which is the Phoenix version of Comic-Con some years back, and I went to a panel of dragon riders where you had Brandon Mull and Christopher Paolini and a bunch of others. It was a really, really great panel, and I had the opportunity to actually ask the very first question to the panel. And I wanted to express to them a concern that a lot of people had given me when I told them I'm going to write stories with dragons. And people were telling me that's not good. Dragons are either overutilized or underutilized, misunderstood, or they're just a cheap trope within fantasy. You can do so much more and so much better than having dragons. And there were some pretty good arguments that were made to me to not write stories that centered on dragons, or that even had dragons in them, because it would be a disaster. And again, there were some pretty compelling arguments. So I repeated some of that to the panel, and Christopher Paolini, who I did not expect to take up the call first, said, well, they have a point, but also you have a point. You need to come out and say, well, you know what? You haven't read my dragon story. You haven't read this dragon story. You know dragons, but you don't know my dragons. And I guarantee you that when you read this story, you are going to be blown away. And that is what all the other authors had to say. All of them had to say that they had to come in out of the gates, swinging, guns blazing, to their publishers and editors and to people when they were just getting started, saying, this is a story unlike any other you have ever come across before. Even if stories have a lot of similarities, but you know what? This is my story. Only I can tell it this way, and it is going to be amazing. And that came from a whole lot of authors, and some of whom are actually very humble individuals. And so it taught me something, and this is something that I've learned time and time again as I have tried to pitch my own stories to agents, to publishers, to editors, and when I've done stuff here on YouTube, or when we've done stuff over at our podcast, you have to come out boldly and say, this is my advice, this is my take, this is my story, and it is going to be good. Now then, of course, you have to back it up by showing that it is actually good, which again, J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay utterly failed at. And there's a good question as to why that is, because these guys have been in the industry now for over a decade. They claim to have written tons of movies that just never went into production. They claim to have all of this experience, but it's just not showing on the screen. Now then, it could be chalked up that, hey, they're first-time showrunners. they are learning as they now are on the go, because they've never really had that position before, because all of their work has never gotten off the ground before. And you know what? I feel like there's definitely an argument to be made there. But when it comes down to the writing, when these guys had years to create and perfect the scripts for just season 1 alone, and supposedly they have a decade of experience writing other scripts, why do their scripts and stories suck so bad? And especially when we know that they were given complete creative control by Amazon. Well, it's because they just didn't have the skill to back up their words. They could talk the talk, but they could most definitely not walk the walk. It's like a drunk guy saying that they can easily sprint 20 meters, or if I say 20 meters, 200 meters. There we go. That's better. Like a drunk person saying that they can sprint 200 meters and they barely make it 2 before they trip over their own shoelaces and face plant. That is what we saw with the Rings of Power. So, in order to better understand what's actually going on here, we need to consider the opposite, another quality that is absolutely necessary as a creator and as a writer, and that is humility. Humility is the ability to cut down off of your own high horse, even after you've said, this is the best thing that you've ever read, this is the best story I've ever made, and then be willing to take criticism from other people, whether that be from your editor, from your publisher, from your readers, who then say, I like this, but I didn't like this, and this is why. Or this works, but this doesn't work, and this is why. You are a great writer, but you're not yet there. There are some things that you need to work on. Hearing stuff like that can be extremely discouraging, even when it is worded really well. You have to be humble to be able to take that and understand that people want your story to succeed. They want you to be the best that they can be. They would not be giving you advice if they didn't think that your story was worth it. You definitely won't have a publisher or an editor or an agent unless they thought that you and your story are worth it. So they are genuinely there to help you out, and you have to understand that. You have to be humble enough to take criticism, to take advice, and put that into effect. And you should always be thankful and humble for all of the attention that you get. And I'm just going to say, for myself, I am honestly in awe that this channel has done as well as it has this past year. I am grateful for everyone who has watched, whether they've had nice things to say or not nice things to say. I'm thankful for all of the new subscriptions, for all of the comments. I'm grateful for all of the advice that I've been getting and how to better thumbnails, better videos, and editing scripts. There's been some really great stuff that I've gotten, and I'm genuinely grateful for all of that. And I'm also grateful to everyone who has bought a copy of one of my books and has read it and has given a review or given me feedback. That is amazing. It is honestly incredible just to know that there's someone out there who read my story and enjoyed it, or who read my story and cared enough to say, hey, guess what, Lars? You got to work on this. That is good. And you know what? You only get to experience that kind of feeling, that kind of sensation, if you are humble. If you're just filled with arrogance, pride, hubris, when you then get those kinds of comments, even the positive ones, it twists it into a negative light, where it's like, of course it's brilliant, you peon. You should enjoy my story. You should be grateful that I've written it. No, that is definitely not the attitude that you should be having. And there's definitely false humility as well, where you definitely don't show that, where you don't show that you appreciate what others have done for you, or what they've said about your work, or what they have said to try to better your work. The way that you can easily spot that is when someone's like, oh, thank you so much for all of your notes, and then they do nothing with them. So coming back to then the idea of J.D. Payne, Patrick McKay utterly failing, not being able to walk the walk, well, this is where humility and hubris must come together, because in order to actually learn to become a good creative, you have to bring both of those qualities together as an individual. You have to have the hubris to punch on through, the pride to continue going on, the pride in yourself, the pride in your story, the pride in your craft, that you will continue on even when the going gets rough. But you also have to have that humility to receive the feedback and to look at yourself realistically, genuinely, honestly, and find those things that need to be improved in order for you to become a better storyteller. So as we go into this month of Thanksgiving, I really would hope that we all take some time to evaluate where we are. Pride is good when it is balanced by humility. And too much humility, well, humility is a great thing, but it is possible to go even too far that way and just kind of become wishy-washy and waffly in a wet blanket, which you don't want to be. You have to find that balance, because in that balance of humility and pride, you are then ready to learn everything you need to learn in order to become a better author. And I mean, that's basically what the rest of our videos and the rest of our podcasts and everything else out here is for, in order to help you become a better creative, become a better storyteller, to make your stories the best that they can be, because you need your stories need you, and the world needs your stories. But in order to be in that position, to be in that mind space, you have to have that balance of pride and humility. And that's going to be a constant struggle. There are times where I've been way too prideful for my own good, and there have been other times where I've been way too humble and I've just caved in on just everything, and maybe that's led to me seeking out probably advice or praise that really I didn't need, or that I shouldn't have been looking for, because yes, even humility sometimes can lead you to looking for kinds of praise that you shouldn't want. I know that sounds weird and everything, but it's true. So striking that balance is going to be a lifelong struggle, whether you're creative or not, but it's one of the balances that you need to have in order to become a better storyteller. So there you have it, some of the philosophy into writing and everything like that. But I think that this is honestly a lesson that should be taught more often to other creatives. I walked away from that panel with the Dragon Riders and just being like, wow, that I needed to hear that. And it's been something that I've come back to so often. So I am passing it along. And again, this is the month of Thanksgiving. Hope you guys are feeling grateful. Hope you guys are looking forward to some great feasts, some great fun down the pipe. And if you are interested in leaving a comment for this video, please let me know what you're grateful for. I know that this is completely different from a lot of the other stuff that we normally talk about here on the channel, but let's pump out some great positivity onto the internet here today. Let's talk about what we are grateful for down in the comments below. And I will be seeing you guys later. Until the next video, y'all. Tschüss.